Here comes Ezra Hudson. Counsel, before we get started, can we agree that the standard stipulation under FRCP 32 blah 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 will be applied to this case? I'm assuming she's trying to control the questioning, or Brian Friedman says we can certainly talk about it during the break. Ezra Hudson says, well, it's that all objections except the form of the questions are reserved for trial, right? Brian Friedman says, I understand that. I'm happy to talk about it while we're off the record. Ezra says, well, ... Before she could even finish her sentence, Brian Friedman says, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Ezra says, okay, so we can agree though that the rule will apply. Brian Friedman says, we can definitely agree that we can talk about it for sure, but I want to talk to my co-counsel. Brian Friedman is a funny man. I don't care what anybody says. That's a funny man.
The Blake Lively legal saga just took a stunning turn. Fresh deposition pages have surfaced, and what they reveal about Hollywood's biggest lawsuit is absolutely jaw-dropping. Could this testimony actually expose the cracks in Lively's entire case? Was she coached so heavily that she's become a legal puppet? And most shocking of all, did she really believe someone was going to physically harm her over a movie dispute? Before we dive deep into these explosive revelations, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This case is moving fast, and you won't want to miss a single development. Drop a comment below with your thoughts as we uncover what Blake Lively's own words reveal about this Hollywood legal battlefield. These deposition excerpts paint a picture that nobody saw coming. Let's break down exactly what happened when Blake Lively was put under oath. The newly surfaced deposition pages paint a strange and unsettling portrait of Blake Lively under oath. From the very first exchanges, something felt off. Attorneys on both sides sparred over procedural rules, stalling before Blake even spoke. But once the questioning began, observers noticed her answers sounded detached, hesitant, almost rehearsed. When asked to provide her full legal name, she gave Blake Allender Reynolds, not Blake Lively, not Blake Brown, the name tied to her business ventures. Instead, an identity most of the public has never even heard. That may seem trivial, but in a courtroom, identity matters. Every alias, every name variation can open doors to legal complications.
Ezra Hudson says, that's the rule that I'll be functioning under for the course of the deposition unless you disagree. Oh my God. Like, how many times you want the man to tell you we will talk about it later after I've talked to my co-counsel? I don't care if that's the rule you're going to be operating under. I'm not agreeing to anything until I've talked to my co-counsel. How is that hard to get? Brian Friedman says, I also want to note for the record that per the protective order in this case, we are designating Ms. Lively's entire deposition transcript and video, including all testimony and exhibits, as confidential. We reserve the right to modify, elevate, or remove this designation within the time period set forth in the protective order. And I also want to just clarify that everyone in the room has signed a protective order.
Then came the heart of the questioning, the alleged smear campaign. Blake insists she was targeted, buried in her words, by coordinated attacks meant to destroy her reputation. But when pressed for specifics, her testimony collapsed into vagueness. Attorney Brian Friedman asked her directly, could she identify a single defamatory article written by Jed Wallace? Her response, no, she couldn't cite one. Not a post, not an article, not even a blog entry. Instead, she leaned on secondhand descriptions, saying it had been explained to her that Wallace's work was clandestine, meaning secretive, hard to trace. But in court, someone told me is not proof. It's hearsay, and hearsay rarely survives a judge's scrutiny. The more she was asked, the clearer it became. Blake herself hasn't read much of the material she claims ruined her reputation. She even admitted she doesn't read articles about herself, nor does she check social media. That means she's relying entirely on what others, lawyers, advisors, maybe even her husband, told her. So here's the question. If Blake hasn't personally seen the defamation, how can she testify with certainty that it exists?
The real deposition is going to pick up on page 13, right? Good morning. What's your full legal name? Blake Allender Reynolds. And right there, I was like, okay, so Blake Lively, I get it, stage name, but you don't claim Blake Lively. And then your hair care brand is called Blake Brown, and that's not even your legal name either. We know her mother made her father take her ex-husband's last name, which is the Lively situation. So I'm very confused by the legal name being only Blake Allender Reynolds, but okay, that's not my business. And what's your date of birth? We know she just had a birthday a couple of days ago. How long have you been an actress? She says 21 years.
That vulnerability may explain why her attorneys objected almost constantly. Each time the questioning got close to exposing gaps in her knowledge, they jumped in, interrupting, redirecting, objecting to form. To outsiders, it looked like they were shielding her from giving damaging answers, but to a jury, it could look like avoidance. And then, the testimony took a darker turn. Blake testified that during this alleged smear campaign, She was told someone said there would be 2 dead bodies by the time this was over. She claimed this statement left her fearing for her physical safety. But here's the bombshell. There's no evidence this was ever said. No recordings, no messages, no official record, just word of mouth. She admitted the phrase was passed along by others, again secondhand. So the core of her case now rests on stories she's been told, not documents she can show. Why take such a risk in testimony this high stakes? Why lean on rumor instead of fact? And most of all, could this unravel her credibility in front of a jury?
Scary hours. Do you recall the year you started? She says professionally 2004. And I was like, okay, what were you doing before 2004? You agreed to play the role of Lily Bloom in It Ends With Us at the end of 2022. Is that correct? Yes. Prior to that time, had you heard about the book with that same title? She says prior to agreeing, yes. So after she says yes to that, it jumps. We don't know what happens, but like the transcripts jump from they jump from pretty much I think page 12 to now we are like on page 251, right? So we don't know what happens in between then. But about some publications, some things that are tangible, you know, you can read them. And I'm just trying to find out if you're aware of anything that Jed Wallace has published about you that you complain about that would be part of the smear campaign.
To understand how explosive this really is, let's rewind. Blake Lively signed on to star in It Ends With Us, directed by Justin Baldoni. At first, it seemed like a dream project, a best-selling novel brought to life with A-list talent.
Ezra Hudson objects. Blake says, sorry, I don't think I understand the question. Obviously, your lawyer just nudged you. Brian Freeman asked the question again. In the law that the thousands of people who are witnessing this deposition practice a lot, there is a thing called libel. We all know what libel is, which is written defamation, disparagement, and then there is a slander, which is oral defamation or disparagement. So I'm focusing on written libel, right? Is there anything you've seen in writing that you believe that Mr. Wallace has authored that is defamatory, disparaging, or says mean things about you? She says that's happening currently. Brian Freeman says, well, let's start with currently, sure. She says, currently, I don't read the news about me or go on social media about me. So personally, I don't have knowledge, no. Interesting. So Blake is claiming she's not on social media now.
But behind the scenes, tension simmered, disputes over creative control, behind-the-scenes power struggles, and eventually, accusations that Blake herself was being deliberately sabotaged. She claimed a shadowy PR campaign was designed to destroy her. Stories surfaced, casting her as difficult on set, unprofessional, even reckless. Blake's side insists those stories weren't organic. They were planted. An astroturfing campaign meant to bury her career under a wave of bad press. Astroturfing, in plain English, means fake grassroots buzz. Instead of real fans spreading opinions, paid insiders flood social media and outlets with carefully crafted narratives. On paper, it looks like public outrage. In reality, it's strategy. Blake's lawsuit argues that this tactic was weaponized against her. But proving astroturfing is nearly impossible without a smoking gun. Emails, texts, receipts showing coordination. So far, she hasn't shown the court that kind of proof. And this isn't the first time Hollywood has seen something like this. Amber Heard's defamation trial with Johnny Depp featured similar allegations of online manipulation and smear tactics. Britney Spears, too, was targeted by tabloids that built entire narratives out of thin air. In each case, the question was the same. Where's the line between gossip and coordinated character assassination? From a legal standpoint, these deposition excerpts reveal serious problems with Blake's case. In defamation law, you must prove specific false statements caused measurable harm. Blake's inability to cite even one specific defamatory article or post is legally catastrophic. You cannot win a defamation case based on vague impressions or secondhand information. Her claim that Wallace's work is clandestine actually works against her. If his work is so hidden, how did it cause public reputational damage? The logic doesn't hold up. The most bizarre moment comes when discussing the phrase bury her. Blake claims that when someone allegedly said there would be 2 dead bodies, she considered it might be literal. She testified that as a mother, she felt physical danger was possible. But here's the problem. There's no recording, text message, email, or any evidence this statement was ever made. It's based entirely on what someone told someone who told Blake. In legal terms, this is multiple levels of hearsay. Generally inadmissible in court, this testimony could actually hurt Blake's credibility. Claiming you feared physical violence from what appears to be standard Hollywood business disputes may seem excessive to a jury. The strategic implications are massive. If Blake cannot produce specific evidence of defamation, her case could collapse entirely. Her own testimony is raising more questions than it answers. Where does this leave us? Blake's team did win a partial victory in court. Judge Lyman has ordered her opponents to hand over crucial discovery: emails, phone records, HR files, even encrypted signal messages. That could be huge. If those documents contain damaging discussions, talk of burying her career, coordinating negative press, it could salvage her case. But here's the catch. Discovery cuts both ways. If those records show nothing, or worse, if they undermine her claims, it could backfire spectacularly. This is bigger than just Blake Lively. This case highlights how Hollywood battles are increasingly fought not just in the press, but in the IEWR courts. Allegations of smear campaigns, online manipulation, even reputational murder are becoming weapons in power struggles between celebrities, producers, and media players. If Blake wins, it could send a chilling message across the industry. Orchestrated PR takedowns come with legal consequences. But if she loses, it could reinforce the idea that defamation is nearly impossible for celebrities to prove, no matter how damaging the headlines. And that raises a haunting question. Are stars like Blake simply trapped, forced to endure the machine of gossip and smear campaigns with no real recourse? Or are these lawsuits a dangerous gamble, one that risks exposing more than they protect? Hollywood thrives on illusion, but once you step into a courtroom, illusions crumble. And if this case goes to trial, it won't just be Blake Lively's reputation on the line. It could pull Justin Baldoni, PR executives, and an entire web of Hollywood insiders into the spotlight. The deposition pages we've seen so far raise more questions than answers. Was Blake Lively truly the victim of a calculated smear campaign, or is she fighting a battle that the evidence can't support? And if this case does move forward, will it expose the hidden machinery of Hollywood power plays, or simply prove that even the biggest stars can't escape the shadows of doubt? What do you think? Was Blake silenced by a smear campaign? Or is this all a risky legal strategy that could blow up in court? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the next round of leaks could change everything.